Hey there, Data Nation. It's Ryan. Welcome back. I'm sorry it's been so long since we posted, but I'm super stoked. After a year-long hiatus and a bunch of changes, we got a bunch of new, exciting things to add to the channel. Most importantly, being that Al Belamy is joining our group. It's going to be the two of us running the channel from now on. In fact, today's episode, which is Man, I think we talked for over an hour, all about multi-touch attribution. One of the topics that Al recently was interested in, and some things that he and the company that he works for do a lot of work on. So I'm excited to have Al as a part of the channel. Excited for all the new things that are coming down the pike, and stay tuned. We're excited to get going. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Al.
Sure. So I mean, you and I obviously we met through kind of through John David, but really, I think the actual origin story was, I think you might have been the first interview I ever watched on that channel,
Oh, really?
and so that was kind of where we started getting a little bit more interactive. I started talking to you. I started talking to John, and just sort of took my first steps into the world of YouTube stuff and just being a participant in the videos further down the road than I ever was before. And at the time, I was working on retiring out of the Marine Corps, which eventually came to pass. I was kind of taking my first steps into the social media world as a transitioning military person, and then kind of branded myself as a data analyst. Eventually became a marketing analyst. And so, yeah, really kind of our origin story goes back to, you producing data-driven demand generation, what, year and a half ago or so, when you were really putting out consistent videos. And then, just interactions with John David, getting on his channel and sharpening some skills there. So, but since retired last September, went into just as kind of luck and circumstance would have it, went into marketing for a company headquartered out of New York, and I'm in a section that focuses on attribution. So, and then kind of our topic today.
Yeah. Well, I almost feel like you are probably more attuned to some of the capabilities, just given the company you work for and some of the organizations you work with. And I think that's kind of our topic for today, right? Is multi-touch attribution.
Yep.
And so I'll give you kind of my perception and how we've used it for some of our clients with a couple of examples. I think it's probably a little bit more grassroots data collection and using maybe some bootstrappy things to get down to all the different touch points, versus I know Intellect has some way more sophisticated methodologies and data collection processes to doing that. But yeah, I mean, we've been for several years using sort of a multi-touch or a multi-channel attribution strategy to kind of hone in on how different users either buy products or get through to some kind of conversion, and subsequently even from conversion, a lead conversion into an actual sales conversion at the bottom of the funnel. And it usually starts at the top with just developing a campaign concept, and then measuring the performance of that initial sort of awareness campaign down through all the different ways the user interacts with a brand. One example of this would be, we had a home decor company a few years ago, that this is actually probably more like 5 or 6 years ago now, where we were we were running Facebook ads, Facebook and Instagram ads for their products. Those were driving people to specific products and specific landing pages on their website. Whenever they hit the website, we had like a newsletter sign up that was something like 20% off your first order. And then subsequently, we were also running smart shopping campaigns, which is sort of like a hybridized Google Shopping and remarketing campaigns. I don't know if you've seen those, but like shopping ad campaigns that where the product ads actually show up like on like a New York Times or some other like kind of website like that, in addition to showing up in Google Shopping search results. And then subsequently we even had like an affiliate, like an after purchase affiliate thing where we could kind of track users there. And the central data collection tool was Google Analytics. So that's how we kind of tracked most of the users. And one of the things that we observed, so initially we were seeing like goose eggs for Facebook. It was like nothing, like there was no sales from Facebook. And it was disheartening because we're probably spending, I don't know, $5-6 grand a month initially and thinking, we're going to do gangbusters and we're getting tons of traffic, tons of engagement on the website. But like very few sales, definitely not showing a return on investment.
Okay.
Where we were seeing like huge gains was via email, which was probably accounted for like 40% of online sales. And the smart shopping was like another 40% of online sales. And so we foolishly turned off all of our Facebook ads. And we at the time we weren't really applying much of like a multi-channel. We were applying a multi-channel approach, but we weren't looking at the whole buyer cycle. And of course, like within 30 days, we like all of our channels were starting to like break down. Like the retargeting that was happening through smart shopping was breaking down. We were losing, like we had like almost no email signups, and subsequently our email sales were like dropping like crazy. And at the time, I'm pretty sure if this was 5 or 6 years ago, like Google had kind of just introduced multi-channel funnels, the MCF section and attribution. Maybe it was longer ago than that, but we had like not really paid too much attention to it. And we jumped into that section just because we were doing like some more deep analysis, trying to figure out like what's happening with sales. And we looked back and it was like all the first touch interactions for our downstream sales were coming from Facebook. It was like 80-90% of sales had some assisted conversion from interaction with a social media ad. And
your attribution was crap. Like you just weren't tracking it back to Facebook and realizing that was the the initial step in a lot of your people's customer journey.
Right. And Google Analytics on the surface, if you don't like look deeper, Google Analytics attributes the last interaction to the sale, or the sale to the last interaction, which is why you see a lot of companies will show like a ton of like organic and direct conversions, organic and direct sales, which is, some of it's contributed to brand awareness, but a lot of it is just simply, you've been running ads and generating awareness that way, and those users come back because they've already been introduced to the brand via a different channel. So for us, that was like really eye-opening. And subsequently for our e-com clients, we pay a lot of attention to that, and we also try and tag things a little bit better from that perspective. For our lead gen clients, Google Analytics doesn't quite it doesn't pass through as much of that MTA data. Like we can kind of see repeat visitors and like assisted conversions for a lead, but we don't necessarily get that original source for like, say, a qualified lead, like a sales qualified lead or a closed won deal. And that's where tools like HubSpot and Salesforce that have tracking capabilities where you can sort of like tag that user from their multiple visits and kind of see the buyer journey post lead generation. We've used that information and like really like for a lot of clients who use like maybe a combo of HubSpot and Salesforce, which can tag those users with different attributes. We'll be able to connect like last month we generated, or for a longer sales cycle, let's say last quarter, we generated 50 leads, and of those 50 leads, the most qualified ones came in from these keywords and this ad campaign, and those ones valued at $50,000 or $100,000 a pipeline or something along those lines. And so that's kind of the two ways that we use MTA in the day-to-day work that we do, and sort of analyzing and optimizing campaigns.
Well, but I mean, some of the problem with Google now is, we were talking about, they trace everything to last click, but you have the option of going in there and basically putting in whatever attribution you want. So, the magic of that is, you can go in, if you're convinced that your top of funnel efforts are what's leading to conversion, well, you can weight the top of funnel. If you're convinced that last click is what leads to conversion, you can weight the last click. You can average it throughout, or you can just make stuff up.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like, the other day I took my son to frozen yogurt, and he just turned 17. So we were kind of reminiscing about, this is my youngest son, we're kind of reminiscing about when I would take him and his brothers to the frozen yogurt place when they were little. This was when they first started popping up, where you could just go buffet style and slam whatever junk on it you want. And so, I remember I used to watch them as little kids just make these nauseating combinations. Like, I want some chocolate and some pineapple and sour gummy worms and walnuts and like tapioca, and just putting ridiculous stuff on there. So to me, that's kind of everybody can design their own attribution weighting. It's like, you can just make up whatever you want. You think first click, last click, middle of the funnel, hey, whatever works for you. And so there's the option to have these very unscientific and untested models, if you even want to call them that. It's just anybody can go in there and design their own, and then that's what sometimes passes for attribution now. There's nothing validated. It's just kind of based on your hunch or your best guess of what gives you the best return.
Right. Yeah, I think it's important in those situations to sort of isolate variables and maybe test different attribution models, between, you've got first touch, last touch, time delay, mix, like there's a lot. And so I guess, totally, it's like part dependent on who's like analyzing the data and what model do they want to use to assess the value. For us, I think in general, we try to not do, maybe we don't go far enough, but we try and just kind of experiment with at like one stage or another. So if we're focusing on, say, like first touch as the optimization, then we might experiment with a lot of different types of display ad creative, or different headlines and subjects targeting this campaign, to see like if we can drive up the click-through rates for that awareness campaign. Subsequently, if everything else is held constant, we should see improvements downstream in reducing the costs
So
acquisition.
With your experiment, increase in spend in this area leads to what result with your KPIs, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think, like, that's kind of the challenge, is that, how do you convince a client to experiment? Because either the client has their own idea, they say, hey, we've convinced ourselves that this is, or they won't say we've convinced ourselves, they'll say this is the optimal mix, or this is where we're putting our spend. And it's up to you to convince them otherwise, or to convince them that, hey, even the possibility that they're not right. Or they're coming to you to say, oh, magical marketing analytics wizard, tell me exactly where to put my spend. Give me the model that will answer all of my prayers and is going to lead to max revenue, max profit, max whatever KPI or min KPI, if it's one you want to minimize. But and they're looking to you for the answer, but there's little to no acknowledgement on the client's part, and it's difficult to convince the client that, hey, the answer might be you don't know and we don't know yet, but we need to do some work to get there. And so I think there's not a lot of awareness that we no longer live in a world where everything is magically attributed by cookies. You know, it's more difficult than ever to get cookies. People don't want to accept cookies nearly as much as they used to. It's not an automatic click on every website, like, yes, give me the cookies, I'm good. And so the challenge is there, and the challenge may be vastly different at every stop along the way. And so for every platform that they're going through, for your Facebook ads, there may be one privacy challenge or one walled garden that's stopping you from having kind of perfect vision. You know, Google has a different one. You're doing, God knows if you're doing business in Europe, that's a whole different ball of wax.
Oh, yeah.
But there are various challenges along the way. And the answer nowadays is generally not, let me just get perfect vision from these, you know, these tags or these magical computer widgets that are going to tell me what each and every customer has done on their customer journey. It may be, hey, we need to experiment. So we need to leverage spend up or down on a particular part of the funnel or a particular platform. And by definition, the up or the down is suboptimal. And to convince a customer that, hey, we might need to spend a little bit more than we think is entirely appropriate to see what our lift looks like. And then we're just kind of, you know, my artillery background, we're bracketing. We're putting one round on this side of the target, one round on this side of the target. And now we got the solution. Split the difference. And so just to convince a customer that you don't have a crystal ball, but that you need to do some work to figure out what the right answer is, you know, maybe they don't want to hear that. And I'm sure you know that better.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I don't know, I just bring it back to basic math, really. And it's not, I mean, I don't know, some clients don't want to experiment and spend the extra money, and, you know, hopefully it's not too like spray and pray on either end of the spectrum or either end of the funnel. But to me, it's like, you know, if you have enough insight to say, we know we've got, you know, we know that people know about us, right? So let's say we know that we've got some decent brand awareness, and we know at the other end of the spectrum that, like, you know, we have like good customer retention. So somewhere in the middle there is like, you know, we're either not connecting with the right buyers, or we're not getting you know, the right buyers into the right user experience or something along those lines. And usually you can pretty quickly, even just with like the information available to you, I will say, God forbid, you know, we have a couple clients overseas, and like all the cookies and restrictions,
GDPR, yep.
Yeah, the GDPR is becoming, for them, it's like, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Luckily you can still have them, you know, when you put up the notice, you can have it defaulted to check accept all cookies instead of to uncheck accept all cookies, and most people will accept. And so we haven't lost too much data. But you know, I think like understanding, like generally speaking, you know, that you get so much, say, traffic to your website from, you know, these like key 5 channels, and maybe there's like some very specific like industry sites that you get referral traffic from, or maybe there's some specific marketplaces that you've, you know, at least had some limited success in. And then, you know, it's kind of like hone in on like one area. Like maybe you get like a ton of traffic to your website, so you have some good brand awareness, you've got some good click-through activity, but you're just not converting people. So the area that we focus, along the buyer journey, is kind of more that website experience. You know, get them to convert at the very least into like I referenced earlier, like get their email address, because once you've got their email address, you can start to send them communications and stay in front of them. Or, if you can use cookies, try some retargeting and things like that to try and capture that audience. That way, and that's like typically how we would approach it, is like, is it that you're struggling kind of more at the people don't know about you stage, or is it that the people know about you but they're not signing up, or is it that they're signing up and they're not closing into customers, or subsequently not being good customers and advocates? And then we just kind of pick one of those like 3-4 buckets, and that's where we run tests initially. And if we can get a couple wins there, then we kind of move on to different areas. And the bigger challenge is when there's like no awareness and very little conversion, and or it's like an industry where like historically, digital has not been like a main driver for sales. And of course, all that's changing now. That's kind of more of an opportunity if you have an industry that hasn't capitalized on digital marketing yet. But yeah, I think that's that's one way to do it. And definitely, I mean, depending on how much budget they have and how quickly they want to see results, we could start doing some optimization, spend some money at several different areas. I would still recommend doing it sort of in an isolated, like, we're going to do for 2 weeks, we're going to run a bunch of ads on Facebook and drive people to this page. And then, if those ads are doing well, we're going to then take the next 2 weeks and we're going to optimize that page for conversions. And then, so on and so forth. That's how I do it. But
yeah. So really it's an experimentation thing. It's a kind of station by station kind of right sizing of it. And now are you a big believer? Is this something you're headed to, that that you can do the whole kind of God's eye MTA, like you can build a model that will calculate all of your inputs and then spit you out this ideal mix? Or do you think it's more of a modular kind of platform based stage of funnel based approach?
I think depending, I guess, like, maybe is my answer to that question. To me, I think we can arrive at a healthy, confident measure of like return on investment based on having optimized a few channels, where we say like, okay, we know if you spend 20 grand a month, you're going to get 40 grand in revenue, and here's the marketing mix. I struggle, and like for years I was headed to that God's eye point. I was like, we're going to build something that's like, this tried and true method works every single time. It's going to cost you $5 to get $10, and like, it's going to work. And I think I realized over the years, it's like, people don't, it's not linear, and it's not that predictable. And like, new markets are popping up everywhere. I mean, just the TikTok is like exploding. The barrier to entry for advertisers is low. It's like, the most used platform by far. And like, it's something that like we have just started dabbling in. But 3 years ago, like, or 5 years ago, like Facebook, you could do gangbusters, and now so I think it's like, it's important to develop models, but also to evolve. And as far as MTA goes, like the other thing is like, I don't know, we run display ads using Google's DV360 platform, which is sort of like a wholesale version of Google Ads display. And there's some limitations with the tracking. Like, we can't show like view through conversions. I don't know if it's because it's not Analytics 360 that we use for our measurement, but we know, because we're tracking clicks on the ads, we're tracking click activity to the website. So and we're buying like huge volumes. I say huge, for like 3 grand, you might get like 10,000 visits to your website, or something along those lines. Whereas you might spend like 10x that through Google's normal display network. These are targeted ads too, like top 100 DMAs, specific industry segments and things like that. And we're getting like, we're flooding.
I barely know what this means. Tell the people what DMA means.
Oh, it's I don't actually know it's basically like a marketing region. So think of like I'm in Greensboro, which is part of the Piedmont Triad region. So let me look up the actual name of DMA.
Digital marketing area sounds plausible. I don't know.
Either digital or it's like digital or direct marketing area.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a target audience that you're looking for geographically.
Designated marketing area. Yeah, it's basically
Oh,
like
cool.
a geography. So the top 100 DMAs. So like New York City is going to be like its own sort of DMA, but then you
Yeah.
have like the Triad, the Triangle in Eastern Carolina. Like think of just like kind of like a metro area or something like that. So we're targeting like large geographic areas that are high density, like higher population geographic areas. Um, and so what we're seeing is like with these with these wholesale buys, we're like getting tons of traffic. Like a client might go from like 5,000 to 15,000 visits a month just with like a small budget, like a $3,000 budget.
Yeah.
um, and subsequently zero conversions from display. It's like the craziest thing. I can't describe it. And so it's like the opposite of where I'm like, gosh, like I know. But what we also see is like a subsequent like 30 or 40% lift in direct and organic traffic. And those channels are like, we're seeing huge conversions from them.
Yeah.
And so the philosophy, and we've actually tested it by doing like inclusion and exclusion testing, where like we'll run display ads at volume for like 2 months, and then we'll take a break for 2 months. And when we take a break for 2 months, like the organic and direct traffic and the leads just like drop down to zero. We re-engage with display 360 ads, and like boom, they're right back up. And it's a very difficult thing to explain to a client, especially because we consider ourselves to be like very data centric in our marketing approach. That like, yes, you're getting like zero directly attributed leads from display, but we like know that you're getting leads from display because of like the how often we're running them and the results that we see from it.
Yeah.
And subsequently too, like it's like the leads that they get are for the campaigns that we're running exclusively on Display 360, the DV360 platform. So I say all that to say like, that sort of God's eye view on attribution, and like, being able to like say, this channel's 40% of conversions, and so we give it a certain dollar value cost to the organization. It's not like a magic wand. Like we have to take into consideration other factors, like that somebody might just see an ad a few times and then Google a company, and then the paths aren't matched exactly.
Yeah. So
Through
I got to take a quick timeout. As the FNG, the new guy in the marketing space, I feel like it's my job to be the ombudsman for the terminology. So to address to our dear audience, if there's anyone still watching that is not a hardcore marketing geek, display. What's the definition of display?
I mean, to me, it's most of display is going to be either static banner ads, that you might see on, I mean, just thousands of websites, the ones that have the little like blue icon in the corner.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you go to like any major news site and you'll see display ads. You'll see banners at the top. They call these leaderboard ads, and then the ones along the side, they call those skyscraper ads. And then you can also do video through display. So, like video ads that might run either on a site like automatically, or, YouTube, like pre-roll ads that show up at the beginning of a YouTube video. And then subsequently, you can also have like HTML5 ads that are sort of like this motion graphic ad that might show up, but they're kind of like in those predetermined blocks on, just hundreds and thousands of different websites.
Interactive content, the screen takeovers that everybody hates, where you can't find a tiny little hidden dark X in the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. And within display is sort of like that subcategory of like retargeting ads, which are the ads that, you know, follow you around after you leave a
Your computer's
website.
listening to you, and that your phone is spying on you and all that stuff.
Yeah, yep, the stalker style ads that just won't seem to leave you alone no matter how many times you try and close them out. But
You clicked on a cookie somewhere, or you're in the Google universe and you searched for something, and now Google knows what you want, and they're
yeah,
going to keep offering it to you until you buy it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which,
So
you know, works pretty effectively for, you'd be surprised. I mean, for as many people that get annoyed about it, like, you know, every once in a while you see that like 50% off that tech gadget that you were looking at 6 months ago, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah. Athletic shoes. I'm the worst. I'll see some new hotness and I'm like, it's not really worth it. And then they show it to me again. They show it to me again. I swear I'm like a clock. Maybe the third time I see it, I'm like, yeah, it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think, I don't know how it is for you guys. I know that for us, kind of the three big buckets that things come in is display, search, and social. And kind of in that order of sort of volume and diversity. A lot of times search is higher volume as far as impressions and clicks. But you know, for people that aren't fully in the know, the you know, search engine marketing, that's when you go to search on Google or Bing or Yahoo, whatever, DuckDuckGo, whatever you use, and when you get your search results, those first 3 to 5-ish results, you'll see in the super fine print, it says ad. Those are not your organic search results. Those are companies that have paid that search engine platform, whatever it is, to have their ad bid to be put in front of your gaze when you do your search. So if you search for running shoes and you just do kind of a vague keyword, all of the companies competing to sell running shoes and paying Google to show their ads, that's search engine marketing. And if their ad wins that bid to be shown to you on that day and time, then that ad shows up and that company gets an impression from you having seen that ad. Now, you know, if you click on it, then they get a click, and that's even better because then they have a good chance of selling to you. But those people in the know kind of quickly scroll past that and go down to their actual organic search content. It's a big money in search. And then obviously social is putting ads on social media. And so that's kind of a whole different ball game, not only for how they're shown, but you know, how they're attributed and remarketed and all that good stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The whole like I mean, we have done, I would say probably like 60% of our business is actually paid search, you know, search engine marketing, or pay-per-click marketing is also referred to. And I think it's a great strategy, especially if you're trying to sort of flesh out which terms are more effective converters. You know, like if there's, you know, you could really, from a search engine optimization perspective for those organic listings you were talking about, I mean, you can optimize your website for like any term if you've got like enough, you know, create enough content and, you know, build good well-researched kind of articles, and you know, build links to your website. And I mean, Google's got a whole how-to guide on it, but I've seen like a lot of companies start to optimize around like the wrong keywords that didn't necessarily convert somebody. And so with paid search, that, like, you know, bidding model, you can essentially see pretty quickly, you know, which terms are the ones that result in, you know, sale or lead for your business. And then you're like, okay, so I've maybe tested 100 different keywords or phrases, and of those I found like 20 that are really effective at driving new business. I'm going to now create, you know, a content library on my website, and I'm going to create YouTube videos, and I'm going to create social posts and hashtags all around like these optimized terms, and it just gives you that much more of a leg up for the competition. And, you know, if you can be at the top of the paid search listings, at the top of the organic listings, if you're a local business, at the top of the maps, And then, you know, you're getting in front of people and building communities on social media. All that just really helps provide like a holistic and in a lot of cases a lower cost strategy for business, for driving new business.
Yeah. And so how do you guys, you know, as a smaller company, how do you guys advise your clients on figuring out the search keywords that they need to use?
So there's a few different like keyword models. So there's like phrase match and exact match.
Yeah.
And broad match. Those are the three different match types. And so like, for instance, if you were a, let's say you're like a divorce attorney, that's one of our like better markets, one of our niches that we seem to do well in. You know, like you're probably going to be looking like local. So you're going to want to incorporate a geographic term like for your city or region. And then you just put in words like divorce attorney. And so you can use the broad match terms will look at, you know, it'll take the keywords that you input and it will look for synonyms and like similar terms that people are searching. Exact match would be like, let's say, divorce attorney, Los Angeles. If somebody types that exactly into Google, that's when your ads will show. But if they type in any different variety on that term, they're not gonna, your ads are not going to show for that user. So you want to experiment with different things. And, you know, you look at synonyms like, you know, family attorney, child custody attorney. A lot of those like family law attorneys have like a, you know, just a couple categories, service categories. And so, you know, within that and like chiropractic and a few other industries, we know all the keywords that are the best converters, that are the top performers. So we've already, for those clients, we just reach out and say like, hey, we've got the blueprint, we'll just execute it for you. But for anybody that's in like an industry that we're unfamiliar with, you know, usually we just start with some rudimentary terms like, how would you describe what you offer? You know, like how, you know, who are some of your competitors, and maybe look at some of their websites and see. And there's different keyword research tools that you can use as well to kind of determine what people are searching. Even like Google Trends is a great way to determine search volume. And then, so you have like the keywords that you're targeting. And I don't know if we're getting off topic from MTA, but that's fine. From those keywords, so there's the keywords that you input into Google, and then there's the actual search terms that Google reports back to you. So, you know, let's say I'm bidding for divorce attorney Greensboro. Well, it could be that the actual search that the person input for that was like best divorce attorney Southeast Greensboro, just as like an example. Well, that more specific search term is something that I can incorporate back into my ads. It's something I can use to create a topic on my website. Or if it's maybe just like a slightly different term, like how about like free consultation for divorce attorney in Greensboro? I don't want to target that term, that search term, like free or complimentary or cheap or things like that, because, you know, I'm not trying to draw in people who can't afford my service. And in that case, you can put what's called like a negative keyword. So we have like a list of negative keywords that we use also. Like we don't, if somebody types in free, we don't show our ad, or cheap, or things like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, all that stuff kind of informs the different strategies that we use on a monthly basis to optimize individual channels.
So, I mean, how do you, and you know, maybe this is a good way to sum up, because this is the, you know, sort of a so what for, you know, for a smaller level company that's looking to market, looking to figure out how to attribute. How do you advertise your ability to conduct attribution to a potential client? Like, if you go to them and you say, hey, do you show them the nuts and bolts and say that this is, you know, here's a look within the black box summed up for a layperson to understand, here's how we do attribution? Or do you just show them like, hey, we do this with attribution, we get these kind of KPIs from our ad campaigns better than Joe's marketing up the block? What's your pitch?
Yeah, I think a lot of the companies that we work with probably they don't care how we do it so long as we do it. Um, so like with
It's just
car,
a binary, just you're doing attribution, you're not doing attribution.
yeah, like we do attribution and they know that we do attribution, but they don't care how we do attribution.
Yeah.
And they don't even
Yeah.
care, like at the end of the day, if I just send you a report that says, here's, the 70 leads we generated for you this past month. And oh, by the way, it looks like 60 of them turned into customers. They don't really need to see anything else. But so a lot of what we do is kind of more for our benefit to make sure that we're doing a good job for them. I will say, like in the pitch, or the pitch isn't the right word, but we just take a very like straightforward consultative approach when we're working with a new prospective client. So we would just say like, like what's your current state? Like what's kind of give us the lay of the land that you're aware of. And then if there's gaps in data or poor data governance, we'll say, okay, well, the first thing we need to do to understand the clearer picture is actually implement some data collection. So, if some people don't even have a CRM for like a lead gen company or a service-based company. So it's like, all right, well, you need some kind of,
CRM.
what's that?
CRM. Go.
CRM is a customer relationship management tool. It's a place, it's sort of like a database that evolves and collects all sorts of information on your customers and your sales pipeline.
Yeah.
HubSpot is a good example of that. Salesforce is another example. We use HubSpot internally. Um, but yeah, so just so current state, like like what's going on, like you're contacting us for a reason, and that reason is probably something to do with your revenue or profitability, or you want more leads or more sales. And then like what are some of the challenges that you've encountered, and then subsequently, like where are you looking to go, what's your desired state. And then we just kind of identify, okay, well, based on the data provided and the information, here's the area where we would focus first. And that's for, again, like kind of more that consultative approach for new clients. For the industries that we're already familiar with, like chiropractic, we're like, all right, you want 50 leads or 100 leads, and you want them this month or next month, and here's how much you're going to have to spend. And so it's like we've learned with some industries pretty much the secret sauce on how exactly to generate that scale, like to scale leads, or scale revenue.
So I think it's different on our end because at the scale we're working on and the clients that we serve, they are looking for, maybe sometimes we got to talk them off the ledge on the God's eye, like looking at the crystal ball and project with like bleeding accuracy that, this much spend will lead to this much revenue. But they are looking to us for a customer journey analysis. They are looking to us for like high-tech tracking as much as is possible. And a lot of them do have some kind of wacky ideas about what's possible. And not only like what can be accomplished, but the speed at which it can be accomplished. Because, even at a larger scale, even with a bigger company, we face a whole lot of the same challenges when it comes to this platform, this walled garden, this set of regulations for the a geographical area or another country that you're dealing with. And so but at the amount of money that we're talking about and the size of the customer that we're talking about, it may not be an acceptable answer to say, hey, we've got this much, not fudge factor, but we're going to need to do some work to figure out the attribution solution for this. A lot of what we work with at scale is just saying, really it's a regression for the most part, that you're saying, hey, we're going to analyze how much you spent on this campaign, and that led to this many impressions, this many clicks. And then same thing, station by station approach. This next part of the funnel, here's how we're delving into that. This much spend led to these many KPIs. And so you get in that way from what you believe is first click through your steps to what you believe is the last click. And then hopefully that last click is something we can track pretty well. It's generally the easiest part of the process. But then there's a probability of step 1 to maybe step 2 to step 3, step 3 to step 4, and then you get to the bottom of the funnel. And so there's a whole lot of kind of percentages there, and then there's a whole lot of, you spent this much on this campaign, led to this KPI, this much on this campaign. And once you kind of feed all those into the giant machine, it gives you a model. Models for one client are more effective than they are for another client. Models in one domain are more effective than other because we're a marketing analytics agency. We don't specialize in apparel or services or B2B, or we kind of do windows. We do everything.
Yeah,
so
you're industry agnostic.
Yeah.
What are, like, just give me like an idea of, because I'm curious, like we haven't kind of delved into it, and I'm not asking for secret sauce, but I'm just curious, like how many steps would you say the typical client is looking at? Like how many different channels or stages of the buyer cycle? What's like a typical silo? Let's say like, if there's like from initial touch through to like 6 or 7 different, like what's like a typical number for you guys that you're doing analysis on?
Yeah, I mean, I would say go back to those buckets at a bare minimum for just about every campaign. I mean, you're looking at display, search, and social. Within those, there may be multiple touch points each. I don't deal anything with kind of organic. So, that company's website, the attribution there, that's kind of handled elsewhere. I'm looking at those digital touch points along that, kind of into the awareness and then starting into the conversion part of the funnel.
And what tools do you typically use to measure that?
Basically, I just deal in impressions and clicks. So it's the major search platforms, and yeah, just the information that we get from that the websites themselves feed in, and then the wherever that display is being shown. So all of those major sites, some clients you'll have, on site under display, you may have 50 or 100 different ones. So some of them will have 10 or 12. So
yeah,
it varies wildly by the size of the client, the kind of diversity of the audience they're trying to reach out to.
Yeah.
Some of them are super specific. You see some clients where it's a ton of kind of lad sites, sports, sports news sites, and just kind of skewed to a very specific audience. Some of them are just, it's all over. So yeah, size, budget, diversity of target audience, those things are, I would say, probably the biggest drivers.
So in general, like the data that you're interpreting or reporting might be, here was the target audience, here was the ad that was run, here's how many people saw it, here's how many clicked through, and then subsequently from there, how many converted into a customer, or do you measure into like say it's e-com, would you go from like this ad targeting this audience had this many impressions, this many clicks, this many people signed up for like a newsletter or some kind of, they became a known customer somehow, or a known prospect somehow, and then subsequently bought further on down the life cycle? Is that one example of something that you guys measure pretty regularly?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one, appreciate the summation. The one thing I missed out on was spend. So it's
right.
Yeah, you've got all of these like this particular path, this particular target, this particular channel, how many impressions, how many clicks did you get, and then how much did you spend on it? And so that's pretty much the game there is is showing those. And usually what we deal with in my section is, the conversion is not always incorporated. It's how many impressions, how many clicks did you get? The customer figures out the conversion side of it.
Okay. And so then when it relates to like multi-channel, I'm trying to think of like a more specific example. So you can back into the data, you can look at like a cost per impression, cost per click, and maybe a cost per like action or cost per acquisition in some instances. But then if you have like multiple channels, say like you're running, like a simple example, one of our clients, Innisbrook, they sell wrapping paper. For years they used to be huge in the Southeast. They would do these like fundraising things, and now they're kind of more direct to consumer for the wrapping paper, and they're part of the Shamrock family of brands, and Shamrock sells into a variety of different much larger like big box stores. But for Innisbrook, we run a combination of email marketing campaigns, in part which are fed by ads that we run, like shopping ads and social media ads that drive people to the website, and they sign up because they want a discount. You're buying like gift wrap paper or things like that, like you're it's always nice to get some kind of discount. But we have like multiple, like we'll advertise the same promotion on multiple different channels. We'll advertise it on social media, advertise it via email, we'll advertise it via maybe display ads. And so subsequently we're testing out different like promotional concepts across different channels to see how effective they are. But we're also looking at like which channels are most effective at driving top of funnel versus like middle of funnel activity or downstream closes, and actually like trying to build out like a customer LTV or lifetime value. I'm sorry, I'm using more acronyms. Because like we have a ton of customers that have been, with Innisbrook for 15 plus years, and they always buy. It's their favorite wrapping paper. They buy it every year, and so like we might have paid, we pay $50 to acquire a new customer, and that first purchase might only be like $40, but that when we look at like the typical average value of that customer, it might be hundreds or almost like over $1,000 over the course of a few years. So my question, I guess, is like, for a single client, you are probably measuring multiple different channels, right? Like you're measuring paid search, you said, social, and display. And so then your data analysis, are you kind of like giving them at a high level, like, here was the effectiveness, or like the kind of, is there like a costing model applied to each of those channels or campaigns within those channels that they use to then kind of feed back into their marketing approach?
That is, I'm sure that does happen. It happens external to me. So that's a darn good question. Maybe we can, maybe we'll follow up. That can be my homework. Like I can bring that back next time.
Yeah, I would love to, just because I don't know who the clients that you work with are. I just know they've got much bigger budgets than all of my clients, I would guess. So just to kind of like see some numbers at scale, just like some kind of high level interpretation, obviously without any specifics, but I'd love to just kind of dive into it a little bit and see some of that data. And I know you use some tools, like you guys use Alteryx, right?
Yep.
Just be
cool. 90% of my time is spent on Alteryx.
That's cool, man. That is a powerful platform. I think that's very cool, especially for like data modeling and things like
that. And just building pipelines that it's just repeatable. Like some clients, I love them. They give me consistent data sets every month, and it's downloaded from S3, loaded up, click run. Oh, look, it's clean. And, you know, and I go eat a donut. So life is good. Life is good when you get clean data set. It's
Yes.
a fun to change every month. And then you're like, oh, goody, I get to fix my workflow again.
No, yeah. It's too bad. It's too bad you have to fix it every month, right?
Well, you know, if I wasn't fixing it, I'm not sure they'd keep paying me. So
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. If you had the end all be all solution, then why are they paying you ongoing to?
yeah, so this is proprietary, right? You don't own this? All right, cool.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, cool, man. I think we hit a lot of stuff today.
Yeah. Attribution, you do it, we do it.
It's
It's
important.
good.
It's good for marketing, and it's good to use. Assuming you have pretty clean data, you can make some pretty powerful decisions.
Yeah, don't just guess. Put some science into it.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, cool. All right. Well, I'm not sure what's on the docket for next week. We I think I've got a few topics that I want to touch on. The just kind of GA4 stuff in general. I don't know how deep we want to go into that. Google Analytics 4 is, I am not crazy about it, but I've also just been reluctantly starting to get into it. So we'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, there's like some
I'll
science
do some reading up on that. I haven't played so much.
Yeah, you'll see when you get in there.
Yeah.
The difference between that and the old analytics, I think, is just, like just something we got to get used to.
Okay.
Limited access to certain data sets, but cool. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll have something kind of keyed up for next week, and we're right at an hour, so I think that was good.
Yeah, man. Thanks for winning.
Thanks for joining. I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun to just kind of do this weekly and start I don't know, getting some more activity on the channel. I know people are hungry for more content.
There is a small but motivated niche out there that want more marketing analytics.
I see them on LinkedIn, man. And you tag me in a lot of it, so I think hopefully we'll have to like find out, because your network's way bigger than mine. We'll have to find out what people want to learn more about and talk about it.
Yeah, will do.
Sweet. All right. Well, take care. Good seeing you.
Yeah, you too, man.
Bye.